So I was looking through the fundraising numbers, and it looks like you guys are once again outraising the DNC ahead of the midterm cycle. But President Trump earlier this week tweeting against a mega GOP donor, the Koch brothers. Is that going to have any type of impact on the midterm elections and from your vantage point?
Well, obviously, we were very disappointed to see the Koch brothers decide that they're not going to support Kevin Cramer. That's going to be one of the key seats we're focusing on to expand our majority in the Senate. Heidi Heitkamp voted against the historic tax cuts. She has not been a proponent of a lot of the policies the president has put forward to boost our economy. So we're not pleased with that. But that's why the RNC is so impactful and why the president has shared his data with the RNC and why we know that we're the right place to do the ground game, to reach out to voters. We can't depend on an outside entity to do that. It has to be within the party. And like you said, we've raised record money. We've trained 18,000 volunteers so far. We have staff on the ground in 27 states. We made 2 million voter contacts just last week. So we're getting ready for these midterms, and the RNC is the infrastructure that will help us win.
You know, I feel like it's back to the 2016 presidential cycle, just the schedule that President Trump is keeping in terms of how he's literally crisscrossing the country with these mega rallies. But talk to me about this enthusiasm gap issue in particular, because a lot of Democrats that I talk to, they say that they're going to be able to win back the House of Representatives. But my understanding is that these rallies that the president holds are actually a great way to drive up and to identify some of the potential voter turnout. No?
Absolutely. I mean, the president has such high approval rating with Republicans, and you go to these rallies. I mean, you can feel it. It's palpable. The people who are coming. So at the RNC, we use these rallies as an opportunity to register voters, to get their information, to get volunteers. And when we see that he goes into a state, we do see an increase in volunteers and engagement from voters across that region. It's so impactful. And nobody in our party harnesses the energy of our base better than President Trump. And so we have a lot of voters who love the president who maybe don't feel that same way about their congressman. So he is our best messenger right now to go out and say, you cannot be complacent. All these good things that are happening are going to go away if I don't have Republicans in the majority in the House.
But let me push back here respectfully. He's still the best messenger, despite on the issue of immigration, despite on what you're seeing in trade policy, where there's some disputes between what the constituents are saying and what some of the concerns are of these elected officials. He's still the best messenger?
Absolutely. I mean, let's look at our economy. GDP last week of 4.1%. Remember when he was running and he said we could get to 4% and everybody laughed at him? Let's look at the unemployment rates. Let's look at, historic unemployment with the African-American community and the Hispanic community and with women. And you look at jobs coming back to this country. There are a lot of good things that this president can talk about. And he's tackling immigration. Listen, the Democrats' message is what? Resist, obstruct, abolish ICE? How is that a winning message? The president last week made a deal with the EU. He brought home the remains from the Korean soldiers from the Korean War from North Korea. He's done all. He talked about shadow banning on Twitter. What did the Democrats do last week?
I want to pick up there.
Straws. They do
I want
nothing.
to pick up there because usually I always have to ask you about tweets.
Sure.
Now I want to ask you actually about Twitter because you're talking about shadow banning prominent Republicans. You're taking on Twitter, the company. What are your concerns with Jack Dorsey and co. and what they're doing specifically with, as you call it, shadow banning prominent Republicans on Twitter?
Well, I'm very concerned about this. And it's not just me. It's our voters. We hear it across the country. Brad Parscale and I, the campaign manager for the Trump campaign, 2 months ago sent a letter to Twitter and Facebook saying we were concerned about these practices, shadow banning, the algorithms they create that they don't share with us. What are the criteria that go into that? Be transparent about these things. And they did not respond. Twitter did not respond. Then we discovered that they were shadow banning politicians, including myself. So when you looked up my name, it didn't populate with my Twitter account, which is ridiculous. They have now fixed that. But the concern has always been, is Twitter going to become the thought police? Is Silicon Valley going to be determining what narratives break through on their social media platform? Well, guess what they just did? They created the thought police. They just created the thought police. 6 new people they brought in to determine what healthy conversations are on Twitter. 4 of those people have done anti-Trump tweets. So we're seeing this platform go more and more as one that's going to suppress conservative voices. And I think that's important for their users to understand. And I think it's a bad path for Twitter to go down. So,
Chairwoman, what do you want to see happen? Are you calling for a meeting with them? Do you want to? Are there recommendations that you would like to see them join the board of this group that they just announced? What do you want to see happen?
Well, I'm very concerned about this board they announced. To have 6 people on a board determining what conversations should be put forward on their platform, and then to have 4 of those be known anti-Trump board members who have tweeted negative things about this president. How is that fair? And so I want to see Twitter sit down with us, with the Trump campaign, and assure us that they're going to let conservative viewpoints filter through on their platform. They're not going to suppress them. I mean, they control what you see in their newsfeed. And let's remember, the biggest user of Twitter, the person that has put Twitter on the map again, is President Donald Trump. I think this is not a path that they should be going down, and they should be showing an interest in having conservative voices as well as other voices, helping to make sure that we have free speech on these social media platforms.
Do you want that meeting before the midterm elections? Final question.
Yes, of course. We're going into a critical midterm election. These platforms have a lot of influence on how we reach voters, and we need assurances that they're going to let free speech through, whether it's speech they agree with or not.